It's what I'm going to do really is going to be giving you a proven strategy for building the kind of life and the kind of lifestyle and the kind of career in the future that you are truly yearning for. If life is feeling a bit stagnant for you right now, like if you're just kind of going through the motions every day and nothing really changes, I want to take you through a process that's going to help. Well, it's going to help you to start dreaming again. And I want to give you the proven process for getting from where you are right now to where you want to be. And these proven strategies I'll be sharing with you are already being used by all kinds of people all around the world. People who are top achievers, people who have succeeded wildly in business or philanthropy or sports or entertainment, sciences and more. I mean, lots and lots of things. They've got awesome lifestyles and terrific relationships and fascinating causes that are important to them. And of course, they've got the freedom and the money so that they can make their own schedule to focus on the things that they want to do. And I want this for you too. So that's why I'm happy to have you with me today to go through this proven formula, because it's just a matter of following the steps. So, okay, there are 4 steps in all. And if you had a chance to download and print the workbook that's included free with this webinar, you'll see that there are worksheets that you can do on your own time for each of these 4 steps. Now, if you have not had a chance to download or print the workbook before coming into the webinar, please don't worry about it. You'll have plenty of time to do that and go through it on your own. And as always, if you have any questions that come up, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Most of you know that you can reach me through Facebook. And you can also reach me through my website, which is lauraesummers.com. So any questions that you have before we end the webinar, I'd like for you to ask those. We'll have a Q&A at the end of this session. And anything that comes up as you're going through the workbook, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to be in touch with you. So the first step to creating a different future is actually an equation that it truly has changed everything in my life. I know I've shared it with some of you. It is E plus R equals O. And that means the event plus your response equals the outcome. So when I first learned about this equation, I responded to life's events as they came up. It's like if I got a flat tire, I responded with frustration. If my bank account was in trouble, I was miserable. If there was bumper to bumper traffic and I was running late for something, well, I blamed the traffic. And that was until I learned about this equation, because what's happening is it's taught me to respond differently to life's events when they come up. Because here's the reality. Events just happen. Often you can't control them because, well, they materialize as a result of specific situations or other people's emotions or timing, the economy, or like today, the weather in Colorado, and a million other details that are outside of your control. I mean, really, events just happen. But what most people do when they're faced with events is that they feel, harassed and stressed. They'll do anything to just make the situation go away. And that's reactionary. And unfortunately, it often produces an outcome that they don't want. So then what's their first inclination? Well, it's to blame the event for their bad outcome. Unfortunately, blaming an event for producing a negative in your life puts all the power outside of your control. There's nothing you can do about external events. They just happen. That's reality. So the only way to get a good outcome is to respond in a way that will bring about the outcome that you want. So today, the first step in this life-changing formula that I'm talking about is to really take responsibility for how you respond to the events and the mishaps and the catastrophes and all the stuff that happens. But especially, and this is the good part, for how you respond to opportunities that come up. So this doesn't mean you have to take responsibility for the event itself, right? Because that is usually out of your control. It's out of your hands. You don't have anything to do with the event itself. But how you respond is 100% within your control. Think about that. 100% within your control. And it's the one leverage point where you can change what you get out of life. Truly. So taking more responsibility for your responses is the first and most important step toward creating the success that you want in your life. You can be thoughtful and deliberate, or you can choose to be frustrated and reactive and emotional. It's your choice. It's always your choice. And what's so terrific about this concept is that it puts control back in your hands. This is especially important when opportunities come up. Opportunities for you to get ahead, to achieve what you want, to have that better life. Do you know that some people react emotionally when an actual opportunity presents itself? And they complain that the timing isn't right, or that they're not ready, or that it'll require, too much work. So they don't want to respond to the opportunity. Or maybe they just say, I don't have the money right now. You'd be surprised at the complaints that you'll hear from some people when an opportunity arises. Well, let's see what's happening here. Sorry, there we go. I got my thing to change. Yay. Okay, so now we're talking about the second point about the E plus R equals O equation. If you have to give up blaming and complaining, what about the events, and focus on how you'll respond appropriately and positively? Okay, so getting back to the negative events that happen, what do most people do? Well, they tend to complain to the wrong person. So let's say you have a boss named Erica, okay? And let's say that maybe Erica, you're upset with Erica because she's given you a ton of extra work to finish by tomorrow morning. And so you complain to your coworker, Stephen. So it's the same thing as if I'm upset with my husband for something, maybe spending money on a major purchase without consulting me, and I complain to my best friend, right? It doesn't solve anything because we're complaining to the wrong person. It's wasted energy. So you need to tell your boss, Erica, that her timing or prioritization of projects is unworkable and that you need a better system of scheduling. Just like I would need to tell my husband that I want to create a household budget so that major purchases are planned and paid for before we make the decision to buy. So if we speak to the right person instead of the wrong person, the right person can do something about it. They have feedback. They have feedback that we want something different. And of course, that person won't always grant my request, right? Particularly my husband. But at least communicating my request is the first step to actually getting what I want. And so this is just really mature discussion. It's honestly, it's relationship 101. But what about natural disasters and other events that don't involve individual people? I can respond differently to those events too, right? I can leave an extra 20 minutes early for a meeting in case there's traffic or a snowstorm. I can keep up on economic news and put extra savings aside if I am figuring out that there's a recession that's been predicted. I can even upgrade my skills so that I'm still valuable to a new management team after my company gets bought out. And I can have the right kinds of healthy foods in my refrigerator so that I'm not eating on the run or grabbing junk food because I'm just too busy to shop or cook. So instead of spending most of our time blaming things outside of ourselves, like the weather, our boss, the traffic, the economy, our current president, or any situation that we're in, we can take action in advance and be prepared. We can actually devise ways to increase our options should disaster occur. So whatever the world throws at us, we have to stop blaming something outside of ourselves. And taking more responsibility for our responses to the events truly is the first and most important step toward creating more success in our lives. So another important part of taking responsibility and not being a victim in life is watching out for something that I call yellow alerts. You'll see it right there on your screen. Yellow alerts are the little events or comments or recurring situations that you notice that act as clues that something is happening or maybe is about to happen that is not going to be working in our favor. So here's an example. Let's say I hire Sarah as my personal assistant, and then 2 months later she says, I'm thinking about marrying this wonderful guy who lives in the Bahamas. I'm like, yeah, and I kind of ignore it. And a month after that, Sarah says that she's really falling more in love with this guy and also hates the snowy weather, where we are in Colorado. And a few weeks after that, I see that she's buying bridal magazines and looking for real estate in Nassau. And then all of a sudden, Sarah quits. And I'm surprised and I'm unprepared and scrambling for a new admin solution because, well, I wasn't paying attention to the yellow alerts that Sarah was giving me all along. There are lots of yellow alerts in your life. Like your teenager comes home late night after night, maybe with a rank smell on their clothing, or the senior executives from the head office have been repeatedly visiting your department with no explanation, or maybe your biggest client has been giving projects that are ideal for you to other consultants, and you wonder, hey, wait a minute, what is going on here? But you don't want to say anything because, that might be uncomfortable, right? Unfortunately, because mature conversations and inquiries and taking action is inconvenient and uncomfortable sometimes, we tend to deny the yellow alerts rather than act upon them in time. And the truth is, we're almost always given clues that things are coming. We are not the victims here. So I want to direct your attention to 2 different exercises in the workbook that you got. And once again, if you haven't downloaded your workbook, please don't worry about it. You have plenty of time to do that after today's webinar, and reach out to me with questions if you have them. So you don't really need the workbook at this moment, but I do want you to download it one of these days, okay? And one of these days soon would be most beneficial to you. So the first exercise that I want to explain is something called a difficult and troubling situation analysis. And just like an unexpected event, we all experience ongoing and troubling situations from time to time. It's really just a part of life, it happens to all of us. No matter how well prepared that you are to avoid any hardship, they sometimes just simply happen. And sometimes they're out of your control. And if not addressed, they can bring trouble to you for years to come. It's far easier, really, to resolve the situation now when something occurs than it is to just move on and let it go. So what kind of situations am I talking about? Maybe a teenager or a sibling who's not speaking to you, a financial difficulty that's getting worse day by day, a health condition that's annoying or nagging or uncomfortable, and a tense atmosphere in your office maybe, or maybe the sneaking suspicion that your spouse is being unfaithful. The key here is to respond to the event, whether it's sudden or long-standing, with a commitment to resolving it so that you can move on to creating better outcomes in the future. The difficult or troubling situation analysis will help you to get past a current situation so that you can focus on your success again, because these things truly do pull us down. They really do zap our energy. So the exercise in the workbook has full instructions, but essentially it's asking you to analyze the payoffs or benefits that you get from keeping the situation like it is. The negative costs of keeping it like it is. Your part also in creating it or allowing it to be like it is. And actions that you can take or requests that you can make to get what you want instead. So don't fail to respond to a troubling situation because it's easier or more convenient or less uncomfortable or less confrontational or keeps the peace or doesn't even require taking risks. I'm going to ask you to please take action. Don't allow negative outcomes to be your fate, particularly when they're not in your control. Take the power back. Take the control back. So in the same way, you don't want to fail to respond to a yellow alert because it's easier or more convenient or less confrontational. There's a second exercise in your workbook that's called, What Are You Pretending Not to Know? And if you're experiencing negative outcomes in your life, maybe you're ignoring the facts or excusing your part in creating the problem. So to help you identify areas to take corrective action or take action to prevent eventual disaster, the exercise asks you to examine each area of your life and really determine if there's a problem that you're ignoring or creating. And you might be ignoring something to do with your health, or your money, or your family, or your lifestyle, or your career. But whatever it is, this exercise will help you to respond to yellow alerts before something disastrous occurs. So the second critical step in the proven success formula that I introduced at the beginning of this webinar is that you have to decide what you want. One of the most amazing phenomena that you'll ever experience as you incorporate this formula into your daily life is the unexpected phone call, or the windfall financial benefit, or the uncanny new acquaintance that brings you exactly what you want or exactly what you need in order to achieve your goals. Almost as if it was planned, right? I say maybe it's the universe. Maybe it's the universe rewarding your new take action attitude by harnessing all the forces at its disposal. Or perhaps you've worked hard and you've grown yourself to a point where you're finally ready to receive a benefit, which has been waiting for you in the wings all along. But most likely, and this is what I truly believe, and researchers actually are confirming it, it may simply be a matter of your subconscious mind focusing on and recognizing opportunity when it arrives. So whatever the explanation, the reality is that what you want wants you. Your subconscious mind would not allow you to have a dream that was not feasible and you were not able to achieve, okay? So your goals, desires, and needs are patiently waiting to gravitate toward you once you make that decision and you decide what you truly want. Of course, the main reason why most people don't get what they want is really because they haven't decided what they want. They haven't decided what that want is. They haven't defined their goals exactly in a clear and compelling detail, okay? After all, how else can your mind know where to begin looking, seeing, and hearing if you don't give it specific and detailed goals to achieve? So there's a really powerful technique for helping you to define what you want in vivid detail. And I'll be talking about that technique more in just a minute. But before defining the ideal life you want for yourself, here's a word of caution. Make sure that your wants are personally important to you. Not those things that you think or you believe should be important to you. Not those things that the world expects you to have. Not something your mother wants you to focus on, or your spouse, a direction your spouse believes that you should be going in. But what's truly important to you from the deepest place in your heart. What I'm saying is, don't live somebody else's dream. Unfortunately, the sad reality for most people is they simply aren't honest with themselves. Because if they were, they'd realize that their shoulds are almost always less interesting and more hassle than what they truly want. So here's an example for that. Many people who have become social media influencers or industry experts were working dull jobs, following a career that other people thought was maybe fantastic. But their lives didn't really become thrilling or fulfilling or meaningful or even lucrative until they started maybe a decorating blog, or started consulting with a small business, or started, writing a cookbook. Once they were living the life that they truly wanted, all the necessary opportunities showed up, including the money. So one of the easiest ways to begin
deciding what you truly want is really, ask a friend to help you. So I'm going to ask you to ask a friend to help you make a list
and have that friend continually ask you one question. What do you want? 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 And keep asking you for like 10 or 15 minutes. And in between each question, I want you to write down what your answer is. So I know this might seem kind of funny, and at first it feels that way too. You're going to find that your first wants, the first few wants when you start in the first few minutes aren't going to be things that are very profound at all. In fact, most people hear themselves saying things like, I want a new car, maybe I want a Mercedes, I want a big house, I want a vacation on the ocean, things like that. But by the time you get toward the end of the exercise, the real you will begin to speak. Things like, I want people to love me. I want to make a difference. I want to be significant. I want my business to succeed. Wants that are truly expressions of your heartfelt desires. So that's a quick exercise that you can do with a friend, and it's kind of fun. And then trade places and help them make their own list of wants too. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? So to really create your definitive list, I want you to turn to the page in your workbook. And again, if you don't have it, you'll see it later. And find an exercise called the vision exercise. It's going to help you to decide what you want to be, what you want to do, and what you want to have in 7 different major areas of your life. The vision exercise is also located right there in your workbook. You'll find it there. And this is an exercise that I would really encourage that you do privately, just you alone, all by yourself. Start by putting on some relaxing music and just sit quietly in a comfortable environment where you won't be disturbed. And then close your eyes and ask your subconscious mind to give you images of what your ideal life would look like if you were living it exactly as you want. So visualize your life in 7 key areas: your career and professional life, your finances, your recreation, vacation, and free time, your body and physical health, your relationships, your personal growth, and your community work. And as you go through the exercise, you'll be defining what you want to be and do and have in each of those 7 areas. So there are ideas and prompts and memory joggers in each section that'll help you think through your ideal life. But your subconscious mind actually already knows what you want. And that should be the ultimate source of ideas for you. So even if you don't have the workbook with you, let's just go ahead and do a little bit of the exercise right now, okay? So wherever you are, I want you to just close your eyes and just breathe. I want you to notice your breath as you inhale. Notice your breath as you exhale. Eyes closed. Take another deep breath. Relax. And now just imagine that you are in your ideal home environment. Where is it located? What's the view outside the window? What are the colors of the main living areas? What kind of decor or art objects do you have in your home? Now come back slowly and open your eyes. What did you just feel? That was an example of the vision exercise. And that's an example of what you'll do later on in your workbook. And really, this takes time, okay? Don't rush it. If you don't immediately see images of different areas of your life, that's perfectly okay. It still works just as well if you're just thinking about the ideal elements versus actually seeing them or visualizing them in your mind. And just let your mind wander a bit and dream a little. And when the ideas come to you, use that in your workbook, that space in your workbook, to write them down. So many people set aside, like an evening or an afternoon to do this exercise. And so I would encourage you to do that. Maybe later on today, and if you're in Colorado and you're snowed in, this might be a good afternoon for you to do it. And just get started on the exercise. But it's important. It's really important because they ultimately will help you to form goals. A list of goals of things that you might need to work on. So, okay, here's some really good news about those wants that you'll be identifying later in your workbook. And the good news is this: they're achievable. In fact, for most everything that we want, someone else has already done it or created it or owned it or achieved it. So there's not much of what we want anymore that's so lofty that it can't be accomplished, particularly in this day and age. But the key to getting what you want, and here is the step 3 in the formula that I introduced way back at the beginning of the webinar, is to set goals around the things that you want to be, do, and have. So how do we set a goal? Well, we do it by writing it in a way that is specific and measurable, and that someone other than yourself can know for certain that you've achieved that goal or not. So let me give you an example about that, okay? If you said, I want to own a house at the beach someday, I would tell you that that's a nice dream, or it's a nice desire that you have. But to make it into a specific and measurable goal, you need more information. And you need to state it in a way that there is certainty that you'll have that beach house one day. So I want you to think of it this way. I will own a 4,000 square foot home on Pacific Coast Highway in Malibu, California by 12 o'clock midnight on April 30th, 2025. So do you see the difference? The second version of your goal tells your brain exactly what you want to achieve. It's not just a vague dream. If you want to retire early with millions of dollars invested, for example, you need to state the exact amount you'll have invested on the exact date you plan to retire. So as a part of the vision exercise in the workbook, you'll be turning all of your wants into specific and measurable goals that you can begin working on and achieving. And that's in exercise 4. So even those wants, like I want a new car, you can turn that into a goal that is measurable and specific, just as much as the I want to make a difference in the world, and make that goal just as specific. So here's a bonus idea. Why not create minimum goals, target goals, and outrageous goals? So you have 3 categories. So whenever you write down your specific measurable goals, set 3 different levels that you will achieve. Let's say that you want to build a large savings account and get out of debt, right? So your minimum goal might be putting together a $1,000 emergency fund in the next, 60 days. A target goal might be to save up to 4 months of living expenses in the next 8 months. And an outrageous goal might be to pay off all of your consumer debt, or maybe even part of your mortgage, in the next 7 years. So the outrageous goal is always something that would just kind of blow your mind if you achieve it. Get it? Your target goal is usually something within your capabilities if you work at it. And your minimum goal is something that you're almost guaranteed to reach. But it gets you going and gets you taking action, okay? That's what the minimum goal is meant to do. It's meant to say, yeah, okay, I can do this, so let's go ahead and start rocking and rolling with it. Where an outrageous goal might seem too overwhelming, and so you just don't even start. So what happens with this minimum, target, and outrageous formula is that most people start with minimum, right? It's kind of designed that way. Then they get motivated and they end up reaching their target goal a lot easier than they ever expected. Have you ever said, oh, I'm just going to get rid of those old dishes stored in the garage? And the next thing you know, you've cleaned out the entire garage and you've taken everything and hauled it away to, to deliver it to a local charity somewhere. Has that ever happened to you? It was all really just a matter of getting started. And once you got started, it was easier to keep going. You could even delegate the entire garage cleanup, if you really wanted to a professional organizer, or trade with a friend by doing something for them. And that would help you to achieve your target goal too, right? So sometimes you don't even have to do it yourself. So while goal setting is an important step to achieving the wants on our dream list, most of the goals that we set focus on improving our life in the moment, right? Things like getting the house painted, finishing a sales report, cleaning out the laundry room, losing 20 pounds. But what if instead you focused on a single goal that would up-level everything that you do, from your career to your career network, to your income, to your lifestyle, whatever it is? Wouldn't that be a goal that's worth pursuing with passion? Wouldn't that be something to focus on a little bit each day until you actually achieved it? Think about it. If you were an independent sales professional and you knew that you could get a substantial bonus commission or maybe even a promotion once you landed a certain number of customers, wouldn't you work day and night to achieve that goal? If you were a stay-at-home mom whose entire lifestyle and finances would change by earning an extra $3,000, wouldn't you pursue every possible opportunity for side work, or maybe even start your own part-time business so that you could achieve that goal? That's what I mean by a breakthrough goal. Something that changes your life, something that brings you new opportunities, something that gets you in front of the right people and up-levels every activity, relationship, or group that you're involved in. So what might your single breakthrough goal be? Well, there's an exercise in the workbook. Yep, you guessed it. There's an exercise in the workbook that will help you to decide. But for the purposes of this webinar, whether you believe that you can achieve it or not, which one single change in your career or business or lifestyle or relationship would boost you to the next level? Can you think about that? Which one thing would boost you to the next level? Is it landing a promotion, changing jobs, expanding your business, finding your soulmate, going on vacation, reaching retirement, qualifying for an award, or going back to school, maybe moving across country, being able to play better golf, have more fun on vacation, or some other goal? I want you to take time later to really think about what your breakthrough goal is. And there's a page in the workbook to help you figure it out. And then just jot it down. So for that one, look for exercise number 5. Then I want to finish our discussion of goal setting by talking about a technique that I really believe will help you to achieve major goals in record time. And it's a way to get your brain kind of focused on assembling the resources and the people and the money, the circumstances that are needed to bring about your everyday goals, and especially your breakthrough goal. And this is called affirmations. So affirmations are vividly detailed statements of you living, working, and enjoying life as if your goals have already been achieved. So you're doing this in the future. So affirmations help the brain focus on bringing about your heartfelt desires. This is a way of implanting something into the subconscious to give the subconscious mind something to work toward. So here's an example of an affirmation. I'm happily depositing my first $100,000 royalty check as a best-selling author. Another one. I'm joyfully receiving the company's top sales rewards. Okay? So these are examples of affirmations. And so how do affirmations actually work? As scientists now know, and this is what I alluded to a moment ago, the brain is a goal-seeking organism. So if you give it a compelling, colorful, crystal clear image of what you want, it will work night and day to create the opportunities and the contacts and the resources and the circumstances needed so that you can achieve the vision. In fact, the brain has a special function that is called the reticular activating system. And the reticular activating system filters through millions of impressions and images and messages and thoughts that it processes every day. And it passes to your conscious mind that specific information that will actually help you reach your goal. So, for example, if you've ever thought about speaking at an industry convention as a way to boost your career, then all of a sudden you remember that you met the national education director last month at a trade show. That's your reticular activating system, bringing you ideas and contacts that will help you to achieve your goal. So reciting your affirmations frequently throughout the day actually focuses your brain on the goals that you want to achieve. Writing them out on index cards and note cards or your smartphone wallpaper, or maybe for me, one of the things that I do is I like to use Post-it notes and put them on my bathroom mirror. So I'll see it first thing in the morning. It's really a way to constantly focus on your most important goals. So my best advice is to write out your specific and measurable goal on a 3x5 card or a Post-it note, and then review the cards or the notes in the morning when you first wake up, and again at night just before you fall asleep, because you don't always have to know how you'll accomplish the goal. Just keep visualizing yourself in the future as if you've already achieved it. It's also powerful to add color and sounds and emotion and other sensory aspects to the visualization. So actually put yourself in that situation. And as you review your cards, try to experience the feeling of confidence as you deliver the keynote address at your industry's annual conference, or the scent of cinnamon rolls baking at the new bed and breakfast that you recently opened, or maybe the sound of those waves breaking at the new retreat that you're visiting in Hawaii, or the joy that you feel as you're living out your dream career or your professional accomplishment. So another thing that's really important here is that repetition is key, okay? The workbook includes detailed guidelines, of course you already knew that, to help you write powerfully effective affirmations for your unique situation. And that's in using the goals in the previous exercises that came from what do you want to be, to do, and to have. And so for this one, I want you to look to exercise number 6 in the workbook. So of course, we've come to the most important step in the original 4-part formula that I introduced at the beginning of this webinar. And it's step number 4 is take action on your goals. Nothing happens until we take action. So sometimes our biggest life goals seem like kind of overwhelming sometimes. And even though we might be working hard at achieving them, too often we decide to put them off altogether until we have more time or more focus or more money or more energy or more manpower, until we have more of something, right? And we rarely see our goals really as a series of small tasks. But in reality, breaking down the goal into smaller tasks and accomplishing them one at a time or a few at a time is precisely how any big goal gets achieved, right? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So by breaking down your goals into bite-sized pieces or baby steps, whichever sounds best to you, you can begin accomplishing the small tasks that you've determined will really lead to achieving your goals. But I want you to be aware, preparing to move forward is not the same as taking action itself. So in other words, preparation, research, planning, getting it perfect, these are all areas where people get bogged down. It's where we actually get stuck. And we get stuck to a point where we can't take action because well, I can't take action until I finish getting this research done, or I finish preparing, and it's not perfect yet. But if you don't take action, you're not moving forward, right? So the one way that I recommend that you actually start to take action on your goals is something I call chunking it down. And so when you're chunking it down, oops, I see my slides have been a little bit of an issue. There we go, now I've got it. So if you had a target goal of saving, let's say, 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses in an emergency fund, a sample goal that we mentioned earlier in this webinar, what steps could you take to pull that money together over the next 8 months, right? And you could, in chunking it down, you could say, number 1, determine the amount of money per month that you need. Number 2, identify what portion of your current savings you might use for this special fund. Number 3, make a list of money sources to save, such as like overtime work at pay or holiday bonus, or something along those lines. Number 4, make a list of unused items that you can sell. Number 5, open a new bank account for this money before starting to earn more or sell things. So those 5 steps, which are essentially research and making lists and going to the bank, are all things that you can do in like one day, right? And in fact, probably you could get them done in just an afternoon. By making lists of what needs to be done, you've effectively chunked it down. All the tasks, you've chunked them down into small steps that are now doable and achievable, which leads me to a helpful strategy for taking action, and that is practice something called the Rule of 5, and you'll see it right there on your screen. The Rule of 5 simply means that every day you do 5 specific things that will move your goal toward completion. So bigger goals might take longer time, but the Rule of 5 still applies. Do 5 things every day until your goal is achieved. Now, it might sound like that's kind of hard to do. How am I going to come up with 5 things every day? Well, some days you're going to have repeats of the same 5 things that you did yesterday that you're going to do again today, right? So take buying a house in Hawaii, for example. That's a really big goal. But chunking it down and doing 5 things a day still applies, even though it seems like it's going to be a big deal. You have to find out where the best locations are, right? Decide which island you want to live on. Find out how much homes there cost. Determine how much money you'll need to save. Research where you can get financing. Decide where you'll get your furniture. Determine the repairs or decorating budget that you'll need. Decide if you want to have a great big house or a townhome or a single family home or a condo, and on and on and on. So once you decide all these things and chunk each larger goal down into smaller steps, you can begin taking action on these steps. 5 steps a day until you achieve your goal. So while he didn't call it the Rule of 5, my mentor, Jack Canfield, who is the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul, once said that in order to arrive at the life of your dreams, you simply, 1, make a wish list of the activities, finances, and lifestyles that you'll be enjoying once you get there. 2, break down each wish on the list into steps that you'll need to take to achieve it. And 3, choose a number of those steps to achieve each day, week, month, or year. And 4, achieve them. So that's the game plan that we're talking about here for achieving the life of your dreams, or for achieving, well, really virtually any impressive goal that you've ever set for yourself. So is there something that hinders people from taking action at all? Yes. Yes, there absolutely is. And one thing is the feeling that they can't accomplish even the smallest of baby steps, that they don't feel confident. And another is that they feel overwhelmed by the sheer amount of stuff that they already had to do, right? And a third is that they have to ask someone for something in order to move forward. And asking is something, well, that can be a difficult thing for some people to do. So let's address these obstacles right now. I'm actually going to start with the second one I mentioned, people feeling overwhelmed by the amount of tasks that they already have to do. Because most of us have incompletes and messes in our households, our offices, our relationships, our families, our finances, and other major areas really of our lives. I mean, we've got overflowing closets or broken screen doors and 6 years worth of tax paperwork and bills that haven't been filed. And maybe we've had a fight with our sibling that's not resolved, a nagging health condition that we need to address, and on and on and on. And we have incompleted tasks and messes that are just not cleaned up. So one way to stop feeling overwhelmed by doing what you already have to do is to clean up those messes and incompletes first. It's especially important to handle these incompletes because of what psychologists call attention units. You can only attend to 7 things at once. I know that even seems like a lot to me, but you can, that's the limit, 7 things at once. Beyond that, you can't. So when you have a cluttered desk, when you're constantly seeing all the papers and unanswered letters and 3,000 emails in your inbox, these things actually steal your focus away from the other tasks that you want to accomplish. You look over your mental to-do list and you think, oh my gosh, I should move on that. I should put that away. I need to answer that. So it's constantly taking up time and space in your head. The more incompletes you have in your life, the more your focus and creative energy gets fractured and gets scattered. The other reason that it's important for you to clean up your messes and your incompletes is that doing so builds self-confidence and self-esteem. So now your accomplishment is bringing you gifts, right? Gifts of self-confidence and self-esteem. Because when we have a lot of incompletes in our lives, we really are consciously or even unconsciously judging ourselves as incompetent and incapable because we haven't completed them. So every time you look at these messes, they're reflecting back to you the message that, hey, you're not handling me. We're either afraid to handle them or we don't know how to handle them. And this fear and lack of knowledge compromises our feelings of competence. By handling the incompletes, we get more time in our lives to focus on those steps that will bring about the really important goals and dreams that we have. So take the time to put all of your incompletes and your messes down on one list, either on paper or in your computer, whichever works for you the best. And walk around the house and note the things room by room. Go through your stack of bills to find anything that you've not yet handled. Share with your spouse any family relationships that maybe could use some attention because they're not in the best of shapes. And once you have these things listed, then you can start to prioritize them and tackle them, one a month or one a quarter or one a week. Maybe, a few of them aren't too bad and you can get one done later today. You don't have to think about all of the other things at the same time because you know that they're on the list. And since they're on the list, you know that they're going to get handled, right, in the order of their importance. So you can even apply the minimum target outrageous model to the messes. What's the minimum goal or the smallest incomplete that you'll commit to handling by this weekend? Or like I said, later on today, if you're in Colorado and you're in a snowstorm. What's a larger mess or incomplete that you can make a target goal to handle by the end of this month? And what's an outrageous goal that you could handle, such as an incomplete home renovation in the next 90 days, or, it might take you 6 months. But handling incompletes and messes boosts your confidence and creates available attention span in your life so that you can tackle those 5 things a day that you want to do to reach your really big goals. So let's address the third roadblock that keeps people from taking action on their goals. And that is they lack confidence when asking for what they need from people who can help them to reach their goals. So asking for help that you need is still a challenge that holds many people back. We're willing to give, we're not so willing to ask. So why are people so afraid to ask? Well, we're afraid for several reasons. For one, we think it makes us look needy, or maybe we look foolish, or we look ignorant. But mostly, we're really afraid of experiencing rejection. We're afraid of hearing the word, that very small word, no.
And the sad thing is, when we don't ask, we're already rejecting ourselves in advance. We're already saying no to ourselves before anybody else actually even has the chance to do that. You know, if you don't ask, the answer is already no. But here's an illustration to think about. If you apply to Harvard and you don't get in, you weren't in Harvard before you applied, and you're not in Harvard after you applied. So your life didn't get worse. Think about it. You've spent your whole life not going to Harvard, and you now know how to handle that. Someone telling you no does not make your situation any worse. It just keeps it the same. Crazy, right? Well, there's a specific science to asking for and getting what you want or need in pursuit of your goals. And here's some quick tips to get you more comfortable with asking. Number one, ask as if you expect to get it. Ask with a positive expectation. Ask from a place that you have already been given it. It's a done deal. Ask as if you expect to get a yes. Number two, assume you can. Don't start with the assumption that you can't. If you are going to assume you can get an upgrade. Assume you can get a table by the window. Assume you can return it without a sales slip. Assume that you can get a raise or a promotion. Don't ever assume against yourself. So number three, ask someone who can give it to you. So qualify that person. Determine for yourself, who would I have to speak to get this, whatever this is, accomplished? Who is authorized to make a decision about that? Who do I have to speak with to get whatever it is that you're asking for? Number four, be clear and specific. So too many people are walking around wanting more money, more love, more help around the house, more recognition at work, more of everything. But they're not being specific. Do you want enough money to retire? Do you want to go on a date night twice a month? Do you want the kids to pick up their bedrooms every Friday and have the laundry done by Saturday morning? If you're not sure about specifics, do the research of what it takes and make specific requests. Number five, ask repeatedly. Now, I know that this might sound like you're going to be annoying, but don't give up. Whenever we ask others to participate in the fulfillment of our goals, there will be some people who will say no. They may have other priorities or commitments or reasons to not participate. It's no reflection on you. Just get used to the idea that there's going to be a lot of rejection along the way to the brass ring, right? The key is to not give up. So here's what I'd like you to remember. When someone says no, you say, next. That's right. When someone says no, you say, next. And that brings me to number 6. Ask someone else. Remember, there are over 6 billion people on the planet. Someone else has enough authorization, is skilled enough, knowledgeable enough, emotionally invested enough, or otherwise capable of saying yes to you. Don't get stuck in your fear. Move on to the next person, or the next person, or the next person, or the next, or the next, or the next, until you connect with the person who can help you. Really, it's just a numbers game. Somebody out there is really waiting just to say yes. So you've made it through to the end, and I thank you for that, as we've come to, well, near the end of this webinar. But I want to close with a couple of things. Number 1, I want you to choose right now one thing that you'll commit to doing to create the future that you deserve starting tonight. I know, kind of pressure, isn't it? So whether it's complete the decide what you want exercise in the workbook, or write your first affirmation on a card or a post-it note, or even, do that very difficult thing and handle a difficult and troubling situation. Whatever it is, make a mental commitment now. And then I'd like you to actually step out of your comfort zone and share it with us by posting it to the chat board of this webinar. You know, the one where you said hello to everybody when you came in a little while ago? So post it on the chat board of the webinar. Remember that when we share our goals, we are more likely to achieve them. And secondly, I'm passionate about helping others overcome core issues and develop personal action plans and really to help them move effectively toward achieving their goals. So I've developed a 6-week course with the help from my team, and we're calling it the Success Principles. This course is going to take you into a deeper dive into doing a step-by-step process. So this is a group coaching program beginning with helping you to get clear on where you want to go. And then I'm going to teach you how step by step to get there. So this course down the road will be offered at $497 for the 6-week program. But because this will be my first time facilitating this new course, I want to offer it to you for a limited time for $297. That is just under $50 a week. And I'm committed to helping you get the best out of your life, just like I did when I discovered and implemented the Success Principles into my life. This course is beginning on Tuesday, April 2nd. That's when I've made the decision to start it. It'll run for 6 consecutive weeks, and you will get a comprehensive workbook that my team and I have methodically put together for you. This is a different workbook than you received for the webinar, and it is much more detailed, has many worksheets that will go along with each week as we travel through the road of these classes. So there will also be each class, each week will be about 75 to 90 minutes of a weekly live Zoom class where we will all be on screen and we'll all be able to share our faces and our smiles with one another and interact with each other face to face. There also will be recordings of each class for you to review at your convenience, just in case you weren't able to be live at one of the classes, or if you just simply want to go back and review that class over and over and over, that recording will be available to you anytime that you'd like. You'll also be included into a closed Facebook group where, along with other participants, we'll be able to ask questions and share and support one another along the way. And so all week long, we'll be able to be in class if that's what we choose to do through that closed Facebook group. There's also going to be an accountability system that will be in place to help you get the outcomes that you desire. Because honestly, studies have proven that goals are achieved at a far more successful level when you have an accountability plan in place. You know, I like to call myself an accountability buddy. And so we will make sure that there is accountability in place so that you have the best possible outcome that you can get. And you'll have everything that you need to build your personal success plan. And finally, you're going to have my ultimate focus. So Jim Rohn, if you're familiar with some of his work, he's amazing. If you're not familiar, I'd highly recommend you read some of his books. He said, you cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight. So that is so very true. So the Success Principles 6-week online group coaching course, it's going to begin again on Tuesday, April 2nd at a limited time for a cost of $297, and that's for the entire course. Everything that we talked about before is all included. That's the workbook, the closed Facebook group, the 6 weeks of course classes that we'll be doing on Zoom, as well as my attention for you, my entire focus in helping you to achieve and attain those things that you really say that you want in this life, and an accountability plan in place. So I hope that you'll consider joining me for this life-altering experience. There's a link right there at the bottom. I would suggest that you take a picture of it, and then you can copy that link onto your browser to sign up today. I want to thank you for joining me on today's webinar. If you have questions about that link or anything else, please feel free to reach out to me if you have any more questions about
anything that we've talked about today. If you have questions about the upcoming class, the Success Principles, please don't hesitate to ask me about that too. I'd love to chat with you about it. So let's do this. Does anyone have any questions right now? I've got the chat room open. The chat box is open. Please just go ahead and type in there if you've got any questions at all. Let's see. Okay. So it doesn't look like anybody has any questions. I can't tell you how grateful I am that you spent this last little bit more than an hour with me. I know that your time is valuable. I respect that more than you know. And I'm just truly, truly grateful that you were here. If you'd like to continue along this path with me, I would be honored to have you in this course with me. I'm so excited about it. My team and I have spent quite a bit of time putting it all together. And so I hope that you will be able to join us and to continue on this path of learning and growing. And thank you, Cassandra. She said, thanks, Laura, all the best from Cassandra. And I appreciate that, Cassandra. Thank you for popping in and staying with this webinar with us. It's been great seeing you all here. So thanks to everybody. If there are no more questions, then I'll just say thank you. It's been my honor working with you today. It's been my honor being here with you today, and let the transformation begin. Let's rock and roll. If you have questions, please reach out to me. Again, lauraesummers.com is my website, and you can email me through there or reach me through Facebook. I'd love to stay in touch with you. And thank you, Susan. Susan says, thanks very much. Wonderful presentation. Thank you, Susan, for being here. I appreciate you all. Have a blessed and beautiful day. And if you're in Colorado today, be safe.